What's up, Chris? It's Tuesday.
What's going on, Jay? Happy Tuesday to you and to everyone out there catching us today.
For those
Um,
of you that aren't aware, this is not a joke. We are really here.
that's right.
It
No jokes
is
today.
no April Fool's joke here.
That's a great question, Jay. Do you have like a favorite April Fool's prank that you've either pulled or had pulled on you,
Nope,
or you just
not
like
at
this is the
all.
best ever? No.
Nope.
Have you had some ones where you were like, I can't believe you wasted your time with this, like a little spider in your coffee or some silliness?
Yeah, no, I don't mess
No,
with
not even that.
that.
Yeah,
You know,
not worth the time. That feels right.
no, it's not worth it. I mean, it's just one of them days. Let's get it on, and get it over with. And
That's right.
just deal with it. So, but I mean, today, if you went on social media, you would have found out that the IRS was shut down officially today.
Is that, but see, the biggest problem with that is that it could be true.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
and
But I know it wasn't because I called 3 times today
oh yeah, there you
in a
go.
matter of an hour and
A
20
couple hours
minutes.
time. Yeah, there you go. All right, so they're still there.
Still there, yeah.
So you heard it here first, right on the practice playbook. IRS still active, everyone. Still active.
Yeah, actually, 3 calls, what, 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Never rang. They answered immediately.
Wow.
Never got anything completed because cut off 3 times. But
but you got right in. Maybe
got right in.
maybe everyone believed the joke.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Well, welcome everyone to the Practice Playbook. I'm Chris. He's Jay, and we're the hosts of your show. This show is designed to help you, your modern accounting firm thrive, and that's actually That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Is how you can do that in a very, very niche and specific way. If you're a frequent listener to the show, then you know and fully understand that digital tools are all the rage, and are going to be things that you need to be skilled with on a going forward basis. And we talked about so much so that we talked about them for a full episode last week. And digital tools and digital skills are exactly what we talked about. And so the purpose of today's episode is to talk a little bit about what do we mean when we talk about digital skills? Like, what are those? What are digital tools? What does that even mean? And then past that, we're going to talk about what you need to be doing to build those skills, both for yourself and for your team. And then we'll talk about a couple different ways that you can overcome potential resistance and what that resistance may look like. So obviously we talk about that a lot. We talk about automation. We talk about technology. But today, that's specifically what we're asking is how do you actually do that? How do you make sure your team is up to speed? And so, Jay, I'm pretty excited to talk about that because I think that that's a really important and relevant thing, especially as the technology begins to change, and as it changes so rapidly, empowering your team becomes one of the most important things that you can do.
Yeah, and it is changing rapidly, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, I started hearing about MCP servers 3 weeks ago.
All right.
Well, Zero has an MCP server up and running as of last week. And MCP is Model Context Protocol.
Thanks. What's that mean?
I knew you were going to ask that. So this is something that Anthropic put out so that Claude could talk with other systems. So Claude could talk to other systems. Claude put the protocol together, and actually it's even being applied by OpenAI at this point, and they're going to use the same system to communicate. And what this does, it makes it easier to communicate with apps APIs. So with Zero, and if you use their NPC server, you can connect to it, and it will connect to the API, and you could request information about invoices or request payments about contacts, and it's going to bring it back for you. Now, how does it work? I don't know yet because I haven't done it. But I am very, very interested in it. I was actually interested in it before I knew Zero released it. And then I saw that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that. Now I know what I'm going to test it with. So,
Yeah. So can
I'm
I?
not a developer, but I'm going to have to learn some code to connect it. But, we'll see if I can connect it to make.com or if I'm going to have to, do something else to make it work.
Right. And so I think if I hear this correctly, the application of this pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Basically, a client could send you an email of like, "Hey, can you give me the status of X?" And rather than you even having to respond, that email can go directly to Claude or to ChatGPT or whatever other source,
Yep.
be fed through this NPC, and be able to potentially pull an answer if it's something that lives in Zero, something that lives in some other platform, can pull that answer for you with basically with like no integration, or no,
Correct.
not no integration, but with like
Well,
no, you don't have to go log
you're
in
gonna
or whatever.
have developed the integration, so you'll have it
Right,
connected to it directly.
right. So
And
where you're not
yeah,
going to have to go do it on your own.
right,
Where you don't have to go do the search or figure out
right,
the thing. You can just ask the question.
for
Um,
sure.
that
And not only that, I mean, I'm
great.
pretty sure you're going to be able to say, "Hey, contact XYZ. I need to create an invoice for $1,000, and I need you to send it." Done.
Right. Yeah. And so that
So yeah,
I know that's a lot of the. I know a lot of that application seems pretty similar to what Jax was supposed to be able to
yeah.
do. And it feels like it's a Jax outside of Zero. Right.
Basically, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, in order to use Jax currently, you have to be in the Zero dashboard. You click Ask Jax and you ask Jax your question
Yeah.
or ask it to do something for you.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's going to be, you'll be able to have it in any AI agent conversation or AI automation that you might have.
Right.
And so if you're building out an AI agent, you might direct it to go, you're going to say, "Hey, I need to do this invoice." You're not going to have to tell it to go to the Zero MCP. It's basically going to know, okay, we're using Zero. Let's go to the MCP and do this. And
Yeah.
so that's what you're going to have to build out. And, the larger firms are going to be probably pretty proficient at this. The smaller ones, they'll probably have to figure out and be a little uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like bootstrap with this. So we'll have to figure that out, and go
Yeah.
from there.
Right. Well, and that speaks really powerfully to exactly
Yeah.
why this is so important, right? Is there are so many things that we just talked about. We talked about cloud platform fluency, right? You need to be able to understand what Zero is. You need to understand what these different platforms are in the cloud and how to access them and what they do. You need to understand both workflow and product process flow, as well as the automation of those, right? You need to know where things are going, where they're coming from, how those steps are working, right? This is a really important thing. You need to understand app integration and potentially, and especially in a case like this, you need to understand API basics. You need to know what happens when these things connect, what that even means, and all of the things that go along with that.
Well, hopefully you have one person at the firm, or at least one person that understands the API basics that can connect it, and then from there you can just figure out how to use it contextually.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's the thing too, is you need to you one other area where you like your team needs to be able to be skilled, right? As in the like what I would call, or what we kind of call today, soft digital skills. So this is troubleshooting, it's just the curiosity around that technology, and it takes some understanding of the basics to know like how you can address that and what you can do to fix those problems when your when your API like breaks, right? Like how do you resolve it instead of just going to, API guy. Maybe you can also be like, "Hey, API guy, this particular thing is happening. I know you need to know X. I know you need to know Y, and maybe I can't log into Make to do it, but you can. And I know you need to fix this thing because this is the trigger that's not working properly, or something like that, right?" And so having that ability to explain your problems, basically that the soft digital skill, right? Truly, like the soft skills of digitalness,
Yeah.
like that'll be a really important skill that every firm is going to need. And then of course, just data literacy, right? You need to know what kind of information you're pulling, where it's pulling from, what it's going into. That could be dashboards, KPIs, forecasting, like all of those different types of things. You're going to need to understand how they work, and what kind of information that they're pulling. Jay, when you think about the future and being being data literate or digitally literate. Like, are there other skills that we didn't talk about that you think are worth making sure folks know about?
I really just think, at that point you need to be agile and be able to
Mm,
think on your feet, know what tools to use for what things, and know what tool or tools to use when you don't know.
yeah,
So you're not sitting there waiting on somebody else.
right.
Yeah, there's going to be the new Google of tomorrow. So you can. It's you hate to tell somebody go Google it, but you know, being self sufficient and doing that is so much better than just sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for somebody to come along and ask.
Yeah,
So
right.
just you know, take it upon yourself, ask the questions, and verify it. But go for it.
Right.
Ask.
Yeah.
Ask Perplexity. That's one of those tools that I like to do my searches on because
Right.
it actually ChatGPT's gotten a lot better with it too because it's pulling source data as well. So those are great tools for just that.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, okay. So those tools, right, are part of ways that you can build skills within your firm. And so we wanted to also talk about a few of those things, right? The first one is kind of exactly what you're talking about, right, Jay? Is like bootstrapping effectively, right? Like you mentioned before, it's Googling it, using your own using your own. But there are a few other ways that you can also help your team to do this. One of them would be peer-led learning, right? So have a champion, have an API guy who can show the team how that works. Or another thing that I haven't really thought of that much is the idea of like a micro training. So where you get like maybe a small portion of your team together to talk about a different tool, and let them work on it together, or even like a one-on-one as part of an onboarding, right? You have a person who shows you how to use a product, use a tool, and then you know that person can be a reference for you later if you run into trouble or need to troubleshoot. And so I think that can be really powerful for sure. Um, another potential option to build skills is practice based learning. So that is kind of your Googling, right? You send someone out to automate a process on their own, right? Or to go and execute some transaction set on their own, right? That could be maybe a client onboarding thing or a receipt capture or who knows what else, right? It could be all kinds of different things. But allowing someone to do it in practice gives them the opportunity to expand those skills. One of my favorite ones, Jay, and we're doing this at High Rock tomorrow, is demo and vendor education, right? So let somebody else show you how it works. That is to say, right? When a vendor has a product and they're willing to demo it for you, let them show you the ins and outs of how that thing works, and get your team together, sit them down, and work on it together.
They know the best practices. It's probably the best way to learn it from them until you've been able to build your own best practices around your workflows and your clients. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great option. And going back to practice space, I mean, using some of these automation tools, they're very low or no cost. There are freemium versions, so it's like jump in there, and it's like I think the key to doing it is not fearing the technology and fearing that you're going to screw something up. And what I always do, and I'm doing that, I always start with something that's really, really innocent. Let's go ahead and automate you sending out a tweet or following somebody or a reply tweet. So, and I don't even know if you can do that anymore because I think there's certain limits on tweet and APIs, or X post and APIs. But doing something as obscure as that makes it so much easier because you get to do it and you go through the process and you see the result. And in this case, whether it's that or you're just going to see the post out there and it's like, oh, wow, it actually works. And by doing that, you're going to have the confidence, kind of like we talked about earlier today. You actually do it, and you get the confidence instead of watching others do it. So it's like just put it in their hands and turn them loose. And
Yeah.
I have what 6, 7 X accounts. So it's like, yeah, let's throw that post up on that one. Let's use that account to test. So it's not a big deal. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that type of learning, right? The going through it one time can be so powerful and useful,
For sure.
because it does exactly what you're talking about, Jay, and especially in those those low pressure situations. I know that's those are some of the areas where I've learned the best.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Or even if you do it in your personal life, right? So it may not even be work at all. Maybe it's the Jay's NASCAR account or whatever. So where it's your own brand, and it's not impacting your work directly,
Yeah.
but it is helping you to learn about how these things work.
And I also find that you get more buy-in when you do it with your own accounts. So early on, when I started training people how to use Xero, and I'm talking to firm owners, what's the best way to do this? I'm like, well, just get a cashbook account, give it to each of your team members, and let them use it for their own personal books. So them connect their bank account to it. And by doing that, they're using it in their everyday life. They're buying into it more and more because they're going to the grocery store, they're using their debit card. They're going to the gas station, they're using their debit card or credit card, and all the transactions are coming in, and they're doing it. They're seeing how it works. And now, when it comes to doing it for clients, they're not fearful about it because, this is what I do every day for myself. It works. It's great.
That's right. No, I think that's a really great example. A few other things that you can do to build skills. This one should come as no surprise, but certifications. So you can do that through Xero, become Xero certified, or the AICPA has a variety of tech certifications. And then it's my understanding, and Jay, you can correct me if this is wrong, but do Zapier and Make, do they have badges, or what? How do they have certifications? Are these things old?
Certifications, yeah. And
yeah. All right.
The Zapier certification, I did that about 4 years ago. And I got that. Yeah. You'll notice I wear that shirt every now and then.
Right.
But Make, I have not seen badges there. They do have certification levels, and you just if you complete one, you go on to the next one, and I've got like 4 levels down on that. But I find it gives you some basics, but it doesn't teach you what you need. You learn those things from others that are using it, and the best way is follow along while somebody's building out a scenario or Zap, and just see what they're doing. And it's a great way to make that work.
Yeah, and so that is one thing that we have not included here, but that type of thing, those demos, maybe they're not vendor-based demos, but they could be exactly what Jay's talking about, right? It's not a vendor, but it's like somebody on YouTube who's got a YouTube video on, I did a Zap for X, and you can watch along with that person as they create that Zap. I think that's a good option as well. The final one that came up in our agenda, Jay, and I'm super curious what you think about this. Use firm meetings for a digital show and tell. What do you think that even means, Jay?
Lunch and learn. It's exactly what we're doing tomorrow. I mean,
all right, yeah,
come on in. We'll actually get it together. Throw it up on the Teams call. Throw it up on the big screen. Invite an expert in. Show it off, and it's great stuff.
Yeah. And so this could be a really good time too if people have been working on those types of things in their personal life, and they've gotten to where they feel really comfortable in them. This could be a great opportunity to allow your team to do some of these things as well, where they can become that peer-led champion who says, hey, look at this thing that I've done in my personal life. I think that this can be useful for you in this kind of way. Or I've used it. You can use it in your personal life too, to build out a calendar, or to do your own books and records, right? Whatever it might be. There are lots of applications to digital tools, and so they can help you both in work and in home life. Jay, if you were to think through potentially other things that you can do and your team can do to build skills inside your firm, Like, is there anything obvious that we didn't touch on today?
Well, one of the ways I learned a lot of what I learned early on was reverse engineering things. So I
Mm,
would look at what was done and then start editing it and looking at it and make a copy of it and edit it and
yeah.
make changes to it and see how it impacted it. You know, it's really a valuable tool to do that because you can see what's been done and it's like, well, what if I did this and made a tweak to it? Now it's got a different output and doing something completely different. But
Yeah.
it's exactly what you needed to do for some other tool.
Right.
So that's a great way to do it is just reverse engineering. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's great. Now, of course, not everybody buys into tech right away, right? There is a lot of resistance that happens when you start talking about technology, when you start talking about AI. There are lots of things that people see, and so we want to help you today also to know what a few of those are and to help to overcome that resistance. The first one, and I think that this is like an existential one. The fear of technology, right? The fear of being replaced. That this technology is just going to supplement you all the way out of a job. I think if you're a frequent listener to the show, you know that that we wholeheartedly agree that you could not possibly be further from the truth in thinking this way, because there is nothing that technology does that's going to replace you in most roles, right? That it's going to augment your role, it's going to supplement your role, and it's going to help you to do your job better. And so if you it becomes important to, number one, build a culture around that, right? Make sure that everybody understands, like, we're using technology not with the purpose of trying to replace you. We're using technology with the purpose of trying to replace the things you don't like doing, so that it allows you the opportunity to be able to do what you really care about and what you're really skilled in, and not the automated checkbox task or whatever it may be, right? The creation of the creation of the media post, or the building out of the client onboarding workflow where you populate the form with a bunch of different data, right?
I
Those
just
types of
checked off all the
things.
boxes that I did today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That you automated today, right, Jay? No. That if you could, you'd automate tomorrow, without question or
Yep.
hesitation, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's important to remind people that that's the intention behind technology adoption. It isn't to replace you; it is to allow you to flourish.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, think about it this way: you're spending your time doing repetitive tasks when you could automate those tasks and spend that time talking to clients and building relationships, understanding what their needs are, and delivering advisory. So
right.
that ultimately is where you want to go, not
Yep.
be a data entry clerk and basically you know sit there and ticking boxes away all day. That's
Yep.
ultimately not what you want to do, and it's not what you desire. So, at that point, bite into this technology, and it's only going to impact those that don't embrace it, and that's
Right.
the problem.
Yep. And I think that's a thing to communicate as well. Um, a a second potential, like, fear or resistance point that you'll find is time constraints. I don't have time to build that out, or I don't have time to spend time learning about this. Like, I can't make that an important thing. Jay, I think I have got a pretty good idea, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you can do to challenge these thoughts.
Right. Well, if you don't do it now, you're never going to have the time. So
Right.
make the time.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation we have with firm owners about delegating. I don't have time to delegate, so I don't delegate. I just do it. Well, and I was so guilty of this. I mean, take the 20 minutes, take the 60 minutes. It's worth every minute that you spend to teach what you're doing because if you think about it, that 20 minutes is not 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes times 5 days a week times 52
Hmm.
weeks a year. So if you take 3 times that, 60 minutes, figure it out, start working with somebody on it, and you've just now eliminated all that time from your daily calendar that you can now devote to building relationships, taking more time off,
Right.
Figuring those things out. And that
Right.
ultimately is what you want to do. And, I was in that school too. I was too busy in it to see it. And I just took way too long to do it. And by the time I got around to it, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I tell everybody. Just do it as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Don't look for time sometime in the future, because it's never going to come.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's an important thing. And then from an actual application perspective too, I've talked on this show before about recent automation that I built out, right? I had a task that took me like 3 hours to do a month. I was building out a commission schedule, and I spent maybe 5 hours to build a Power Query example. That was the first time I used Power Query, and I was so excited to do it. And now that process that took me a couple hours previously to extract the data, manipulate the data, move the data around, change the data, make sure that the data was right. That whole process now takes me 10 minutes. And so for the rest of time, I'm not going to have to spend the 2 or 3 hours it took to do this. I'm just going to have to spend 10 minutes. I'm going to have to, not even, right? Like that's the other thing to think about, is that this upfront commitment of time allows you for the opportunity to save a lot of time in the future. And that particular thing is what can be so powerful. So Jay, what were you going to say?
Question on that. So in that process, is there like a reset you have to do at the beginning of the year as well?
No, there shouldn't be. No.
I don't. Before you automate it, was there?
Oh yeah, it was horrible.
Right. So you also eliminated that need as well, which is on top of the 3 hours a month.
That's right. So, yes. Yeah. The year-end update thing, right? Yeah, that's true. I don't have to do that anymore, because now it should just use the same formatting but with the different year data, and it should work perfectly. So Jay, that's a fantastic point as well. So there are so many. When you automate something and you automate it effectively, the payoff isn't right then. The payoff is the next time, right, and the time after that, and the time after that. And so long as you are continuing to troubleshoot and make sure that it's working properly, right? You may have some bugs you need to resolve. Like this past month, I had to add a person to the schedule. I had a new person in there, so I had to add someone to the macro. But that took like 2 minutes maybe, and it was super easy, right? So and then it worked perfectly as well. And so that type of thing is like you have a little bit, but I was going to have to do that anyway. Right, I was going to have to do the same thing. It was probably going to take me longer to add that person under the old model that I was using. So it's just the time savings, just like Jay was describing, like they just compound over time and become more and more and more.
And just think of the initial time it takes to do it as your investment, and all the time you save as your ROI.
That's right, and it doesn't take very long to get that back. Like basically 1 month, I already got it back, and then past that, I'm just we're just investing in new properties or whatever, like literally new assets. I'm building out new assets now.
There you go.
Where can I use Power Query next? So again, recognize that people will have resistance because they understand that it takes time to learn these things and build these models. But it is important that you highlight for them the reasons why spending that time up front is so powerful, and also remind them of the future payoffs that allow you to do the same things that we're talking about today, focusing on your own time, being able to spend time away, being able to focus on those types of services that you truly enjoy providing, where you can build those relationships and make a bigger impact. All of these things are built on a really important idea, and that's creating a safe space to experiment and to fail. And so understanding that Sometimes you're going to build that model and you're going to spend a lot of time building that model, and it's just going to spit out an answer that's just not the right one. And that will happen. And there's going to be times when automations break, and they break really badly. And it may be that that Facebook changes its algorithm, and so something doesn't quite pull the same anymore, or it could just be all kinds of different reasons why that's happened, right, Jay?
Yep. It could be you have a comma in the wrong place. I mean, there are a lot of things that could happen.
So many ways.
Think of failing as learning, because you're learning what happens when X meets Y in the process, and now you get an error code. You take that error code, use your friendly AI, figure it out, and say, hey, let's go. This is no different than the landed cost calculator that I built a month ago.
Right.
I used AI to help me code it, and doing that, I didn't get results I wanted. I said, hey, this is the result I got. I was expecting this. Oh, change this to this, and take this snippet of code and drop it in, whatever. It did it. And then piece by piece, it's like, hey, I want this to be a different color. Okay, do this. And you're learning every step of the way. And, just allow yourself the license to fail, because without it, all you're going to do is stress yourself out, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, and that's a really good suggestion and summary, too, to the same thing that I was just talking about, is that while you may fail on this particular one, so while my commission project may not have worked out to do properly, I was learning a lot about Power Query regardless. Mm-hmm. And so I understand now some of the applications that I would have never understood before, regardless of whether or not it worked or not. And now, thankfully for me, right, it worked, and it worked fine. But even if it had not, I still have that knowledge and the understanding of how those different things work in order to be able to do that again in the future.
Right.
And so there's an extra time advantage still to just creating that environment that allows people to use that time to fail. And even if they do fail, that they're just picking up and learning.
And you might be doing something completely different, but it's like, oh, I learned that in Power Query. I can use that to apply what I need in this situation, although it's very different than what I learned previously.
That's right.
Now
Absolutely.
You've cut that time to build it from 5 hours to 2 hours.
That's right. Absolutely. And so again, compounding. The time that you get back is compounding.
Yep, exactly.
One final thing that you can do to help people overcome resistance to these types of changes, to technology changes, to technology issues, is to highlight small wins. So even when you use a tool to do something small, highlighting that as, hey, I used it for this, and look at this cool win, and especially doing that for people on your team, right? Even if it's just I found the answer to a restaurant I want to go to or something like this, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can use this technology, but if you highlight these small wins, the thing that you'll start to do is to build momentum, and people are going to start understanding, oh yeah, look, they call out that little win. I'm gonna talk about the thing that I did, right? And you're going to start to see people start to really enjoy building up these small wins and highlighting the cool things that people are doing with the technology that you're using. And then when you do that all of those things start to layer together, right? That helps to create that safe space. It helps to allow people the comfort to be able to experiment more. It allows people to share those ideas that saved them time to save themselves time and save their teammates time. And all of those things help to not replace people, but to supplement people and allow them to truly be able to be the advisors that you want them to be. So it all starts with small stuff, and it goes a really long way. Jay, if you think about overcoming resistance to technology and technological changes, are there other things that you think about that we don't want to highlight today?
I just want to say, it always comes down to fear of tech or fear of change.
Yeah.
And don't fear it, embrace it. I mean, honestly, it's the best thing for you because it's only going to make you better and stronger. So embrace it, embrace the technology. I mean, I used to have a T-shirt that said that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Embrace technology.
embrace technology. Yep.
I love it.
But I do want to say when you were talking about the small wins,
Right.
I would, if I was building a project plan for somebody learning something or building something, I would
Mm.
build it with those milestones in it. So
Yeah.
by doing so, they get excited. Hey, I reached a milestone. Yes, I got my success. And
Yeah.
if you have it built in, it's a great place to document it, check it off, enjoy it, and then move on. And
Mm.
yeah, it was a great way to end that segment there with the small wins. So
Yeah. Right. No, I think that's huge.
yeah,
I think that's huge. And so Jay, I know we're getting toward the end of our show today. Do you have a real life story outside of the ones we've already talked about today that highlights how adopting technology can change someone from being tech resistant into tech confident and really help to highlight their skills?
yeah. Years ago, I knew somebody that I worked with, and they were so fearful of technology. I
Mm,
couldn't believe that they were. I mean, so I was working for a healthcare company.
yeah.
They we were all working remotely. Even then, uh, basically, we were in a remote office using remote tools, or we were working from home remotely, and they were so fearful of going into the systems. And basically, it was a healthcare company. We were going into systems that were in the skilled nursing facilities that were working with. And at one point, we were actually using dial-up modems when we started. I mean, I'm going back a few years here, so, but they were so worried about it, and it's like it's okay, just go on in there and do what you got to do. And so I was teaching them how to use it in the office, and they dial in and they're going through their business. I disconnected it. And they're like, what'd you do that for? I said, it's no big deal. I reconnected it. They dialed in and they got an error. Like, oh, you got an error. How do we clear that error? And I taught them how to clear the error. And by doing so and them learning how to do it, they got past the worry about it. And I'm like, don't fear it. Just embrace it and
Yeah.
just run with it. And, you know, basically what you would do, you would get locked out of the system and you'd have to get a back way in to clear that user and start over. So taught them how to do it, relieve the fear. They were a champ, and all they were really doing was basically running reports in the background so that they'd run them at night and then come into the office or in the morning, because in this system, before they upgraded to their current technology, it would actually take overnight runs to run like an AR aging for a
Oh my
facility.
word.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was horrible.
Yeah.
And it would take that long, and then it was on green bar paper, the 11 by 14 paper.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
not only did it take forever to process, it took forever to print. So it's like, yeah, you never wanted that print job to run out of paper or jam. So it's like, okay. And I would take them through that process too. And I would actually tear the
Yeah.
paper and make it error. And you'd run them through all the different scenarios. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm making you into Superman. You're not going to fear anything because you've already dealt with it. So,
Right.
by doing that, it's simple. And, when I used to do zero certifications, I would say, look, what's the worst that can happen? You're posting an entry. You can always edit it. You can always delete it. You can always make a change. It's not
Right.
the end of the world if you post it the wrong way. Well, you post it, you look at the report. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. You go back into it, you fix it. Oh, okay, now we're good. And there you got it. It's like just accept it and move on. And once you know that you're over the fear, you're thriving. You're successful. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot of things today. The thing that I think is most important, of course, is that building these digital skills within yourself and your team, it's going to be critical. And so that means it's something that you should focus on now. And like, this is going to maybe sound like broken recordy here. Like, wait, I feel like they told me this last week. That's because we did. And it's still going to be true, though. And that's that the easiest way to do these types of things is to start with one process or one tool. Jay mentioned Perplexity. Jay, is Perplexity the one that you'd tell people to start with if they were to like use a beginner-friendly but also powerful tool?
If I'm doing queries, I would start there. I mean, when it comes to AI, there are different tools for different things. And, ChatGPT, and I would start with ChatGPT and use the 4.0 model. I think that is a general great tool. It could help you with some coding. It could help you with some content. It could help
teach
you
about
with
Power Query.
Teach you about Power Query. Exactly. Now, if you are paying for it, there are a ton of different models in there that are great at different things. Like you might want to use the coding tool, or using the like Dolly for images.
Pictures,
the image generator in 4.0 now is amazing. Although I just found out it's not available through the API yet, which really sucks. But the other tool, I've been using Zapier for years. I mean, I said I got certified 3 or 4 years ago. It might be 5 years ago now. I don't remember. But I was using it for 5 years before that. And, I started using Make, the last 18 months because I found it to be a little more robust.
Yeah.
And just in the last month, I started looking at N8N, which is the next level up. It's still fairly easy, but you got to have a little bit more coding to understand some of the things you have to do with it.
Yeah.
But in it, it's like in one agent that I built, I am using Claude, I'm using ChatGPT 4.0, and I'm using Gemini Flash 2.0. So
there you go.
They each have their own things that they are best at, and that's ultimately, what you're going to want to learn over time. But just if you're starting out, jump into ChatGPT and play with it, and see what you come up with.
Yep, that's the right answer. I think that's the tool I'd use first too. It's the one I use the most. I have used it for a variety of different things, between Power Query to trees in my yard to Spanish lessons. So it's really robust, and you can use it for a lot of different stuff. So again, start with one process, one tool. That's our main advice, right? Like you don't have to jump all the way in. And to that, right, it's also important to, as a reminder, and we talked about the same thing last week. So again, broken record, I understand, but that's because it's important. And that is, don't wait for a perfect plan. Like, you're not going to be able to wait so long as to have this be exactly in the most perfect way possible. The best thing that you can do is build those skills by doing.
Yes.
And that starts right now. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be it doesn't even need to be the final solution. You can start something now and improve it later. Because being able to automate some of those processes can be so powerful, and understanding and building those skills right now by doing stuff will do the same thing that Jay and I have already talked about, right? You're going to save time now. You're going to save time later. You're going to save time because you learned how to do it when you do the next thing. And the compounding effect, it's just like, I've never really thought about it this way, but it's like money, right?
Yeah.
So you invest a little bit right now, and it just piles up and piles up and piles up.
Yeah, and if you wait for perfection, everybody, time and everybody around you is going to run past you.
Right.
So don't do that. Be in the forefront. Take it on.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Stop.
That's right. Oh, the inside references are perfect. So if you've never heard the stop story, the next time that you see Jay at a conference or something like that, ask about the stop story, and I'm sure he'll tell you all about it. Um, and if you've never used AI before, when you do, drop it in the comments. Tell us how it went for you. Let us know. Let us know how your learning went. And of course, if you're already doing that and you have a horror story, or more importantly, and maybe more valuably, a positive story, drop that in the comments as well. We want to understand what you're working on and what you're learning and how you're doing it as well. What tools are you using? How are you using them? I want to know that so I can steal it from you. Um, so please share that in the comments so that we can all get better together.
For sure.
Yeah, and again, thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. We love being here on the Practice Playbook. We will be back next week to talk taxes. We're 2 weeks from the deadline today. We'll be 1 week from the deadline next week. So we're going to talk about what the IRS is up to and the biggest questions, comments, or concerns that we've run into over this tax season to date. So tune in next week at 4 p.m. my time, that's Central Time, or 5 p.m. Eastern Time over there with Jay, or all the other times. Like do the math.
Or anytime thereafter.
After, right, or and then anytime thereafter. Tune in next week to hear us talk about taxes and the IRS. Again, thank you so much for your time today. We love chatting to you about digital skills, technology, and helping to make your firm the best firm that it can be. So we'll see you next week. Have a good week, and until then, bye everyone.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.